Okay, good morning everybody, and this session is being recorded right now. My name is Indira Blažević. I'm with the Iowa After School Alliance, and I also have Vic Jaras from the Iowa Department of Education with me here. Today, we are doing a special webinar on the Expanding Minds and Opportunities Compendium, and the webinar will feature presenters Terry Ferindi Dunham, Carol McElwain, and Sean Stilo Griffin. And I will let each of them introduce themselves, but before we begin, I just want to go over some webinar kind of housekeeping rules, as far as if everybody could please mute their speakers if you are not one of the presenters. So we'll take a moment right now to just mute our speakers if you are on the conference line, so that way we're not getting any additional noise. And then as far as the speakers, they've told me that their preference is that you can ask questions at any time along the presentation, because the presentation is broken up into different sections, and so they will allow opportunity for questions along the way. If you are also logged on to the webinar online, you can feel free to type your questions into the chat box, and I will be monitoring those questions and posing them to our presenters. So does anybody have any questions before we begin? Okay, I will let the speakers introduce themselves. Terry, go ahead.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us with you this morning. My name is Terry Ferindi Dunham, and I am the publisher of Expanding Minds and Opportunities, Leveraging the Power of After-School and Summer Learning for Student Success. Just for a quick second, I'll introduce my colleagues, but this book is a landmark document for our field. It really seeks to capture in bite-sized ways the evolution, current state, and future, really, of our field that says after 15 years that after-school and summer learning programs really work. The book was released on February 5th of this month in Washington, D.C., and we've had an incredible response since that just 3 weeks ago. And so we've been very heartened by that, and we're delighted today to be able to talk broadly about the book and its utilization and go deep in a couple of areas, which is why I've invited my colleagues who are authors in the book to talk about their articles, both for the contents of theirs, which is really terrific, but also as examples of the kind of depth that you'll find throughout the book. Carol, do you mind just introducing yourself?
No problem. My name is Carol McElwain. I work at the American Institute for Research. I'm based out of Chicago, but really work nationally. I am a member of the After School Technical Assistance Collaborative. I direct the After School and Expanded Learning work here at AIR. And those of you who are 21st Century Community Learning Centers programs may know AIR as the PPICS data collection system, so you can't hold that against me because I'm not directly involved in that. But the work that I do really focuses on translating the research and evaluation about what works in after-school and expanded learning programs and summer learning programs into tools and policies and practices that programs can use to set themselves on a path of continuous quality improvement. And I also work on developing resources and tools for programs and systems to create a path for quality improvement.
Carol. Great. Sean?
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with you today. I'm Sean Stilo Griffin, the Vice President of Education and Children's Services at the Finance Project. We also are a part of the ATAC, After School Technical Assistance Collaborative. We work with after-school networks as well as 21st Century Community Learning Centers across the country on strategies for financing and sustaining their programs. We have a number of resources on our website that you all hopefully are familiar with, some funding guides. One of the most useful pieces to you all is a searchable federal funding database that you can find at our website, thefinanceproject.org. Happy to be here with you today to discuss our article from the Expanding Mind and Opportunities book, and look forward to engaging with you all in some conversation later on.
Thanks so much, Sean and Carol. So we're going to divide this webinar time up into a couple of sections. I'll talk for a few minutes about the book in general, some themes in the book so you have a sense of it and maybe can not have to read all 450 pages in one sitting. And a little bit about utilization. I'm delighted to take questions and get your ideas on other tools and ways we can work on making the book accessible to the field and beyond. Then we'll do two sessions of diving deep. One where Carol will talk about her article that focuses on quality, and she described a little bit of her work. And we'll take questions in that section, and then we'll go deep again in partnerships, and Sean will talk about her article and her work. And then I'll step back and talk a little bit. I also authored an article in the book that talks about the larger after-school movement, and I'll talk about that, and perhaps we can have a discussion about how your work fits in and how you might leverage this book to expand and deepen your work. So without further ado, I'll kind of dive in here. So Expanding Minds and Opportunities is not only a book that has actually some heft. We've got one group calling it the Big Book now. So it's a physical book you can order through Amazon, which can be helpful to you when you're out in meetings or trying to make a case as a policymaker. But perhaps more importantly, it's also a website, and we'll look at some of the sections of that in just a moment. But the entire book is available, all of the articles are available in HTML and download with the ability to share. And there's also now sections of the book available so that you can download each section. So again, we'll talk a little more about that, but I just want you to be aware that we will refer to a book, but that it exists in both a physical book form and a web-based form. I do want to mention that the Amazon.com it is a purchase. The book is $20, and all of the proceeds from the book are going into a reprint account. And so that's how we'll maintain the book in perpetuity, we hope. So the book has already generated incredible reviews, and if you do go on the Amazon site, you'll see there's quite a few reviews that are really saying that this is the kind of book that people have needed and are using in their work. The book as a whole has 70 articles by more than 100 authors across the field. And what's most impressive, and we've really been talking about some of the themes and that you can read across them. And this idea of promoting student success is really important. It's really student success broadly defined, but including academically and for college and career readiness. It also talks throughout the book in various ways about building youth assets, about fostering partnerships, and about engaging families. So you'll see those themes throughout the book, as well as some other sub-themes we'll continue to talk about. One of the most compelling and interesting ways to use the book, I think, is conversely as a conversation stopper, to say to anyone that you're speaking with who doubts in any way the continued value of after-school and summer programs, or who is questioning the investment, it works. This book ends the conversation. We now have a solid base of evidence where that quality after-school and summer programs get results. There's quite a few articles in here that are worth referencing, and I'll highlight two. Dr. Deborah Van Dell is one of course, she's a literal dean of the School of Education at the University of California, Irvine, but she's a dean of our field, having been one of the longest-term researchers. She's got a very nice summation article in the book that talks about how there's evidence to show there's a closing of the achievement gap by quality programs that kids are going to regularly, that there's long-term effects, and that there's a cumulative effect on student grades and academic work habits. So I encourage you to take a look at Dr. Vandel's article. There's also a really nice summation article by Joseph Durlock and Roger Weisberg that sums up their meta-analysis. And in that meta-analysis, looking across programs and studies, it shows that we see increased grades in academic achievement, bonding to school, social behaviors, child self-perceptions in after-school and summer learning programs. This is one article, and I believe folks in Iowa were involved in some national work we did. We pre-released this article earlier in 2012, but again, it's part of this compendium and want you to be aware of it as something useful in your work. We also have a section that talks about how quality after-school and summer programs expand student skills and horizons. And what we often mean there is the kind of content areas, and again, I know you have some great programs in Iowa who are doing terrific STEM work and technology work, literacy work, global studies, foreign languages, all kinds of things, even wellness issues, and that there's quite a few examples in the book of how it really works, and this is a space and place and time and with the right adults from the community to expand student skills and think through the opportunities that kids often don't get even in a traditional school day. There's another really broad theme about school and community partnerships. Dr. Priscilla Little has an article in here about partnerships and family engagement that are both very helpful, I think, for making the case. So again, the book is available in various forms, and I just want to take a quick look at the website, and I know your colleague Vic on the phone here has been through this in more detail than I've probably been through it, but there's there's a couple of ways to cut through it. The whole book is available just online, and you can look at the various sections and articles. Each article, this is an example of one of the articles, may be downloaded as a PDF. All of the articles have a cover sheet on top of them, so they're easy to distribute as handouts in meetings for staff development. And then you can share it or tweet it or Facebook it easily from these pages. There's the section on recent evidence of impact I just want to highlight because that's where the two articles that my colleagues Carol and Sean will be talking about in just a moment. But this is a really powerful section, and you'll see on the right there's a download as a PDF button. All of the articles now in that section can be downloaded as a group, so that if, for example, you're doing a staff development section or you're convening a committee on, say, quality or something, you can download that particular section to take a look through the various articles. We've also kind of done a slice through the book and decided the articles by topic. So here's I just pulled up the college and career readiness topic area, and we've sifted through the articles. So while, of course, all 70 articles are wonderful and make terrific points on their own, there are some that are probably more powerful or poignant or make the case in a particularly compelling way. And we've highlighted those as featured articles. You know, obviously people will be looking for different things, but again, if you're quickly getting ready to go to a meeting and you think a handout would be really helpful to make your case or extend the conversation, these featured articles are a good place to start. So with that, I'll actually pause and go to any questions that folks have, and certainly not only questions, but ideas for utilization. We've had a lot of different ideas that people are thinking of using the articles for conversation starters. They're using it to introduce themselves to new stakeholders in their communities or in their states, to say, hey, have you seen this article? It's part of the new book. I'd love to talk to you more about it. We're hearing about people who are featuring articles articles and quotes in Facebook or newsletters. There are over more than 200 examples throughout the book from rural, suburban, urban programs that are embedded in the articles, but when you kind of go through it just looking for examples, it's really terrific to see the range of examples and lessons learned that you can draw from the book. There's also, we haven't compiled this yet, but we've started to realize if you kind of go through skimming of just the resources that are at the end of the book, there are hundreds and hundreds of resources that can take you from the book forward into lots of different libraries and collections of resources and websites to further your work in whatever that area is. So I'll pause there and see if we have any questions of folks who want to know about the book, either how to get it or how to use it.
I don't see any questions in the chat box, but if you have questions, also feel free to speak up on the conference line.
Well, I'm going to stay on here, so at any point in this conversation we can talk some more about this. And again, I'd love to kind of have the two-way too. If over the course of our conversation you think of ways this would be really helpful to you, please just kind of shout out. We're also, as we move along in this dissemination and utilization process, we're trying to create tools as we go. So for example, this PowerPoint that we're talking through right now, my plan is to scrub it a little bit and put some of my notes in the notes box so that we'll post it to our website so that if any of you wanted to take the PowerPoint or some version of it to your meetings, that would also be available. So again, we're learning as we go, and any ideas from you are the way that we're going to make this better and have broader utilization. So with that said, I'm going to forward along, and this is kind of our first section. We're going to go deep and talk specifically about an article and how it fits in the larger field. So with that, I'll hand over to Carol.
Thank you, Terry. And thank you again for the opportunity to talk to you guys about both the compendium, the ways it can be used within the field, which I think are, I've been so excited about the ways, the ideas that people have had, either through professional learning communities that they've developed either in their localities or within their programs themselves as a way of being able to talk more thoughtfully about the field. All of the resources have been gathered in one place, so instead of having to go out and do a literature review to try to find out information about a topic, it's all right here on one website. So, so that is particularly exciting to me. Also very exciting to me are, really probably most exciting to me is that people that I really respect in the field surround our article. And for Deborah Van Dow, for example, and the Durlack and Weisberg article, which many people have used over and over again as really evidence of impact and really forging that path to quality. So those, for my money, those are really pieces that I would, a lot of people hear those names and they're not sure where to begin because they have so many articles that they've published or work that they've done over time, and that these are some capstone pieces that people can use. Very excited about coming right after them in the order of the book. But let me give you a little bit of overview about our work here in the cumbersomely titled "Building on What We Have Learned About Quality and Expanded Learning in After-School Programs," working toward the development of a quality indicator system. And the whole piece behind this is that over time, and a lot of my involvement with after-school programming started from really when the 21st century program grew. When it grew from basically 10 schools in 1997 to nearly 11,000 after-school and summer learning programs this year in 2012, 2013. And then, of course, lots of programs beyond that. Those are just the programs that we count. But but really, because it's a program that's housed in the Department of Education, it's not surprising or unexpected that the focus should be on improving academic achievement. But one of the things that we wanted to really highlight within this article was that really focusing solely on test scores and year-end reports doesn't really give programs the real-time data that they need, useful data to help make improvements and move on that continuum of quality, because it's such it's kind of a far-reaching goal to have for a program, and you have one piece of it. It's a complicated structure that leads to student achievement. So really, what we wanted to do in this article was present a way that that we could figure out some more interim measures that programs could use to help tell the story of the kinds of impact they're having and where they sit in terms of the continuum of quality. So we were hoping that this article could kind of present that roadmap to ensure that programs are operating effectively and producing positive outcomes for young people. So what we did in the article, if you click on it online, or if you have a copy of it available, is that we really focused on this. It's on page 202 of the book itself, but we have the slide here that shows this graphic that we really like. It's from the Wycliffe Center, the Forum for, which is part of the Forum for Youth Investment. They do the Youth Program Quality Assessment, or youth, the YPQI process, which is really a self-assessment process. But the thing that we like about this is that it really shows you how quality works together and supports and supports really outcomes for kids. So the base of the triangle here are really represent the organizational processes that need to be in place for a quality programming to create the triangle piece. So really that you need to focus on what kind of practices you're having with your staff. Do you have enough planning time built into your program? Are staff given enough professional development opportunities, or do you have ways where you're building that in, or building in coaching opportunities so people can reflect on their practices and know that they're having that safe and supportive impact on students that they're working with. And then another piece of it is the partnerships that are involved. From the other articles in the compendium, you can see that it's really important. An important element of quality is having, especially in a program that's school-based or school-linked, is that there's a strong relationship between the program and the school itself. That it's not seen as a competition, but as a collaborative process. So that's one element of the partnerships that need strong partnerships that need to be in place. As well as leveraging the resources of your community in order to create a quality program. And then the other piece are the practices, the operational practices that are involved in your program. What kind of policies you have? What kind of overall training and professional development that exists for your program? Those sorts of things that really are really the base of the foundation here, and lead towards creating, the base of that triangle is a safe and supportive environment. That's really when you talk about the hierarchy of needs, somebody's needs, that they're in a safe place, and then building up the triangle that you're able to work together and in positive relationships between the students themselves in the programs, that peers have positive relationships, and also that the adults and the students in the program have positive relationships. We know from the other articles, particularly the Durlack and Weisberg article, that it is really important to pay attention to how staff is interacting with the children and young adults in the program and with the families, that the people feel like they matter in a program, that really has an important element to it. And then finally, the tip of the triangle there is really building an engagement. That's where we start to see real movement on the needles of achievement, because what I have learned over the years of working with programs is that the hardest thing is to get people to understand that youth need to have a voice in the program. It's always great to design a program that you think that students are going to love, but if then they don't come because they don't feel like they're a part of it, then you've created, this perfect idea in a vacuum that doesn't really have any impact on kids' lives. And the key thing there is that kids are often, especially in the programs that we work with a lot, that there are children without means to their family, that they're not getting the life experiences that higher income families will pay to have their children experience after school. So that and what we found is that engagement of that in interesting activities helps really build context knowledge for kids. So that's another really important factor that's involved in having kids not only get to that engagement peak, but also to be able to really learn why it is that they need to know something. Why do they need to know a fraction, for example? And they would know that being able to play music and know how important it is that time measures within that as an example of it. So I'm going to stop there just for a second to see if there are any questions, because I've been rambling a lot. So. Okay. All right, well, then I'm going to move on. And I just wanted to go back to really sort of how we've designed quality indicators then as our way of kind of framing how you might look at interim indicators that are helping you lead towards program quality. So really what we want, we don't want to prescribe anything in particular for folks, but we want you to think about different particular elements and criteria that the indicators should follow, that they should represent promising evidence-based practices, that you want to make sure that those are relevant to what your context is. A lot of times we hear programs say, oh, well, you've designed this for an urban program, and we're a rural program, and you don't know anything about our area at all. And whether you're urban or rural or suburban, I may not know anything about your program. So that's why it's really important for you to be able to pick the practices that are really relevant to you. And lots of programs have lots of different ultimate goals or what the principles of their program are. Even within what Terry was describing in the introduction of the organization of the Compendium, you saw some college and career readiness work that happens there, or career development kinds of activities. There are lots of youth engagement strategies in other programs, recreation focus, and some others that can also build youth leadership. So there's lots of different goals and outcomes, and we want to make sure that the indicators that you select really kind of reflect what your goals are. We want to also make sure that whatever indicators that are selected are informed by multiple data sources. Lots of folks use PTIX data in some way or another, but the important thing to remember there is that that's self-reported data. So if there's a way that you can use surveys to have other people really give you a picture of what's happening in your program. We would encourage that. Youth surveys are important, or family surveys, teacher surveys. So there's a huge variety of ways that you can you measure your data sources. I have to say, to me, the most important single data source, if you had to pick one, is attendance. That's just my own editorial bias here, but it's the simplest one to measure for programs and can be used in such a variety of ways for program improvement and for planning. That's the one that I always tout as everybody needs to take attendance anyway. So you can use that attendance data to track in ways that show. A simple way of being able to measure that is to say, we had 40 kids attend this program. Over the life of the activity, it went down to 10. What happened in between that point from the 40 to 10? If a program can focus on that and really hone in on the kinds of things, did something happen in the community? Did it get warm outside so that kids wanted to be outside and playing? Or is there something else going on? Is there some unchecked behavior going on within the activity itself? Maybe there's some bullying happening, or the staff involved need more coaching on how to interact more appropriately with kids who are in the program. There's lots of different things you can learn just from attendance, looking more deeply at attendance, and that's something that I would encourage a deeper look into. And so then the basis for that allows program leaders and staff, then you can make data-driven decisions about what you're going to do next with your program or how you're going to improve. If you know that either if you've written a grant and you've said you're going to have X number of kids attending your program and you're not, but that's a piece you can focus on in order to see, well, do we need to realign what our programs are? Do we need to ask the kids what they're more interested in working on? There are lots of different avenues you can go that can help change, help you make more informed organizational process and program practice decisions within your program. And then also we think that quality indicators need to really help program leaders and staff strive toward alignment with local and national systems of quality. In Iowa's advanced quality standards, really looking closely to how does your work align with that. If you're using quality self-assessment, that you're able to look really, if you're using one that other folks use as well, those are really standards that are out there that they all sort of tweak one another, but really focus on really a lot of the major things within them. So we really encourage programs to use that and help set a path for improvement so they know where they are and where they can head. And ultimately, we're hoping that will create more positive youth outcomes in more programs, other places. I think this is the point where I'll stop for now. So that's what our chapter is about, and we're hoping that that's the sort of thing that a program could use or be able to have a discussion about in a staff development session or a professional development session where you're able to you can pick it apart and decide on your indicators. We have pieces in it that go through the domains of what indicators might be established and what elements are involved. And in that process, so you can help develop your own local quality indicators. And you can see those there on this next slide.
And I'll say, Carol, I'm facilitating a process of folks defining their own quality standards, and we're using your article as a checklist to make sure we've covered everything in our process. So thank you for that. Are there questions out there? Thoughts? Ways that this might be helpful to you? All right, well, knowing folks' time is valuable, and I do want to get Sean's piece in here so she can talk a little bit about partnerships, and then, of course, we're happy to circle back to anything. So, Sean, do you mind just giving us a summary of your article and how, in your opinion, it fits into the broader range of articles?
I am happy to do that. And should add that in addition to my work here at the Finance Project, I have worked with the 21st Century Community Learning Centers at both the state and federal level. So I was really happy and really excited to co-author this article with a former colleague who had who moved off to and left us and is living overseas. But we really wanted to look at the value of partnerships in after-school and summer learning. One of the real strengths of the 21st Century Community Learning Centers program and its enabling legislation is the requirement of a broad base and a good variety of robust partnerships to help provide new, exciting experiences to youth through those programs. And having worked with the 21st Century Community Learning Centers for a long time, you know, I knew sort of inherently about the power of these partnerships and the value of these partnerships. And this article was a really terrific opportunity to go deeper into these partnerships and try to understand them even a little bit more. So we started really by looking at partnerships by the numbers. You know, as people are trying to make a case for any program, particularly any state or federally funded program, a really big piece of the argument now is return on investment. Everybody wants to apply that sort of business perspective to the investments in social programs across the country. And in fact, this is evolving work for us here at the Finance Project. And, you know, we really wanted to, we didn't have the time or the funding to do a full-on return on investment study of the 21st Century Community Learning Centers for this article. But we were able to pull out some data from PPIX, and remembering that this is self-reported data, and the data is always a few years, the audited data is always predates the current year by a couple of years. But this is data that we pulled out of PPIX from 2010, and there we found that there was an average of 9 partners per program. You know, if you think about the thousands and thousands of programs across the country, that is a huge number of community partners, for-profit, nonprofit, other community agencies that are coming together to create really vibrant and strong programs. 36% of these partners provide programming or activity-related services. So a good percentage of the partners are directly involved with providing curriculum, providing activities, providing events, interacting directly with the students in one way, shape, or form. If you took all the value of the self-reported value of these partnerships in aggregate, over $230 million. That is huge. That return on investment is significant. Another powerful way to talk about the impact of your individual program or 21st century programs in the aggregate in a school system or in a state is to be able to talk about the additional funding that is leveraged by those programs. That's really significant. That is, not only are you bringing these federal funds into your community, but the federal funds are helping to draw other investment in to support the youth in your community. Your neighbor, just a little bit to the northeast, the state of Wisconsin does an annual report that details a lot of the facts and figures for its 21st Century Community Learning Centers program statewide. And in Wisconsin, just one state alone, $3.4 million in partner contributions. When you take that, multiply it out times 50 and adjust for some states with a higher population density, again, really significant number of partners and a significant amount of resources that are supporting the programs and the students in those programs across the country. So, what's the value of these partnerships? Why do we even want to have these people engaged in what's going on? Well, one of the greatest outcomes of these partnerships is their ability to connect the diverse public and private community organizations and get these folks truly engaged in the lives of young people and the lives of the school and the community. We are, I'm here in Washington, D.C., and just up the road, a mile and a half from me today, there are another diverse group of partners coming together at the Grand Nation Summit, sponsored by America's Promise. There is a huge amount, and I'm sure you've seen this in your communities as well, a huge amount of interest in ensuring that the educational opportunities for young people in your community are of high quality. And a really terrific way to get that community engagement is by giving them something tangible to do, something tangible to work on. And the 21st century programs provide that tangible opportunity to bring people who have traditionally served youth, like libraries and parks and recreation departments, to maybe some communities that have not traditionally worked with youth, maybe some businesses in the community, together into a really meaningful relationship. And to relate back to Carol's presentation earlier, this creating these partnerships is a really terrific conduit for having those conversations about quality and how can the quality of experience be improved for young people participating in the program. Partnerships are absolutely key to program sustainability. It's almost impossible to sustain a program without having some strong, robust partnerships. Not only do these partnerships bring cash and in-kind resources to the table, they are really important in bringing additional notoriety, additional notice of your program within the community. You can only, the program director is working really hard, the staff is working really hard, but if you're then able to marshal the support of a diverse group of program partners to tell your message out in as they move about the community and as they do that work, you are experiencing that sort of larger bubble of good news and information following your program around. Really important, these partnerships bring additional capacity and knowledge to the program. Many of the partnerships that we found when we looked more deeply into the data help to support evaluation, help to support and provide content, expertise that might not otherwise be available to the program. And then finally, as we discussed earlier, these partnerships help to magnify the return on investment. So what have we learned about partnerships, and what do we continue to talk about when we talk about partnerships with folks in states across the country just like yourselves? Well, one of the big issues, which is a little bit of a thorny one, and one that we acknowledge in at the end of our article, is ensuring that people really understand the difference between a partner and a contractor. As we looked at the data, one of the questions that we had to ask ourselves were, how many of these partners that are listed here are truly partners where there's a give and get relationship? There may be resources brought to the table, but it is a mutually beneficial partnership as opposed to a contractual relationship where someone's coming to the table to provide some additional services at a fee. Those really are two different pieces, and the relationship and the management of that relationship are very different. Not to say there isn't a role that contractors play in providing services to these programs, but they're different. Another thing is to think outside of the box. There are lots and lots of really creative ideas when you start to just freely brainstorm of folks that you can bring into your program to really create some engaging, real-life, hands-on experiences that help the youth in those programs really understand how to transfer that, or really understand that what they're learning during the school day really does have relevance to what they need to do in real life. A perfect example of this is one program that has a partnership with their local trucking company. They do some both on the program site and then also working on site with the trucking company to look at logistics using GPS. If you think about it, there are a ton of academic skills that can be reinforced using GPS and logistics. Map reading skills, math skills, planning skills, a really interesting way and a hands-on way to help young people increase their problem-solving skills and also help them understand that there are a lot of different career options out there within their own community that they can start preparing for now. Another example of thinking outside the box, we often hear folks in rural or less populated areas having a lot of concern about, well, you know, we don't have a big hospital, a big library, a big museum, a big industry, a major philanthropic donor with whom we can partner in our community. But up in Vermont, some folks have been really creative in these very small towns about who they partner with. In one town, they partner with a dog sled racer, and there are all sorts of very interesting projects that arise from that, both the physics of designing the sled and understanding where the weight on the sled goes to gain speed, as well as it appeals to the students in the program who love animals. And they also, another program has a partnership with a basket maker, which provides those youth a really exciting opportunity to engage in some oral history. Basket making has a long tradition in that community, so by connecting with a skill that was once prevalent in the community, these young people are connecting with the history of their community as well. Two last big ideas on partnerships, or three, excuse me. Be clear regarding the benefits of partnership, the give and the get. And this is something that we have been working with 21st Century grantees on a lot lately, and really helping people think in a really granular way about what the program gets out of the partnership, but also what the program can give to its partner. When you're able to communicate and make a compelling case for the partnership up front, it's a lot easier to recruit partners to work with the program. Having a real clarity on the expectations of the partnership. You know, you're working with young people. These young people, when they're introduced to an activity, to a new partner, to a new program, expect that those folks will be around for a while. And, you know, you build a project plan based around these people. So being very explicit regarding the expectations and monitoring those expectations, we've learned is just so key and so important. And then finally, the fun part. It's, you know, celebrating partnerships and recognizing the partners and doing something really public and really terrific to celebrate the hard work that others in the community have engaged in to sustain your program and to really increase the quality and the opportunities within the program. So I think I'll stop there. I'll invite you to both read the article and share it with your friends, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you so much, Sean. There's a lot of great numbers there that I think will be really useful as we continue to talk about the value of partnerships. Questions or thoughts here? How this might be helpful in your work?
Looks like somebody's typing in the chat box.
Oh, good.
Oh, Vic says, excellent presentation about a great book. Many thanks.
So let me summarize just another little bit here, and then of course we'll take more questions, but knowing that you all are busy, we can just kind of just do this quick overview. I do want to say there's a section in the book, section 6, on infrastructure. I'm sure some of you on the call are more in programs, and some of you are working on the larger partnerships and infrastructure and systems. I think there's a lot of really good pieces. I'd actually highlight the one by State Superintendent Tom Torlakson and Jennifer Peck from California, where they talk about how in a state like California, where they've really moved the needle quite a bit, they're re-looking at it and what it means to restate partnerships and quality and access in their state. So I'd highlight that one for you. But just very quickly, my co-authors and I, Terry Peterson and Steve Fowler, really talked about what it meant to look across the infrastructure and all these amazing things that have grown in the past 15 years and what it all adds up to. And our conclusions was that we decided that infrastructure probably wasn't even the right word, because infrastructure indicates or intimates that this is something that was built brick by brick. It kind of it's done in a centralized way, and really our field has not grown that way. We've actually called it the force field, talking about how this force field of organizations and policies and funding have sprung up in many, many, many different ways, and that's the real joy of our field. It's also the real challenge, but that we've created opportunities to meet the needs of kids. And just to highlight these 5 force fields, just so you can place your work within this movement, really the 21st Century Community Learning Centers program is a force coming from the federal government, showing our nation's commitment really to putting dollars in this program is enormous. And then how it's played out through the states and how each state education agency is implementing the program with their own unique context and policies has been really a unique story in our field. The statewide after-school networks, and my shout-out to the Iowa After School Alliance and all of your good work there in driving and finding the right levers to create coalitions that shape policy, increase sustainability, and focus on quality. Citywide systems is another really important force. I'm sure many of you have seen it, where cities have come together, sometimes with the leadership of the mayor, sometimes driven by a school district or Parks and Rec department, but really to leverage resources and look at the time kids spend both in and out of school. This established body of research and evidence we talked about throughout this call, but this is really, we spent many, many years kind of trying to say, we know it works. There's no great research yet, but we know it works, and now that argument is done. Mm-hmm. And then 5, building the movement, the After School Alliance, and the work really all of you are doing in advocacy and speaking on behalf of these programs. And so kind of to wrap up this little section, is to say we hope this book gives you another tool in those advocacy efforts, and to make the case to increase funding, improve quality, bring in more partners. This is the goal of this book, and again, how we use it collectively and individually kind of remains to be seen. We've heard a lot of good ideas, and I continue to collect more, so we're eager to get yours. With that, again, I'll pause, and we're happy to take some questions or get some thinking from you all. I hope that we have covered what you hope to learn from this webinar. We really do appreciate your time very much.
And we also appreciate your time, and by your, I mean collectively the 3 of you. We really appreciate you doing this presentation. This is wonderful.
Thank you, dear, for creating the opportunity. Do you have any thoughts from the Alliance about how you guys are using the book? I know you've been wonderful in putting on your Facebook page and sending it out. I know Vic's been doing some great work with it as well.
Yes, and I'll let Vic talk as far as from his point of view, but what I've seen is Michelle Rich, she is our network coordinator, and she actually ordered copies of the book for our entire 21st Century Network. So, yeah, so is there anybody on the, I mean, I know that there are people from our 21st Century Network on the call. Is anybody willing to speak about, well, first of all, have you received the book? And then second of all, how are you planning on using it? I know we have a couple of our grantees on here that I recognize on the list. And let's see, Vic is also typing here in the chat box. See what he said. Yeah, so Vic says, as we advocate for more funding, let us not forget that we only serve 15% of the children in need nationally. and only 11% in Iowa. So the work ahead of us is great to meet the needs of all kids. We have somebody else typing right now as well.
Yeah, I took my phone off from you, and I just would like to thank our wonderful guests for their presentation. And this is certainly going to be a good tool as we, communicate the needs of after school around the state.
Thank you.
Thank you. And feel free to contact us if you have any questions.
Yes, absolutely, and I'm sure we'll follow up, or Indira, you'll help us with get the PowerPoint out. We'll get our emails on there as well, so we're happy to